Welcome to Time Strider Radio, where history comes alive. Here, you're not just a listener, you're part of a family that treasures the story of humanity. Together, we'll walk through the corridors of time, uncovering the unusual, the hidden, and the forgotten. Join me on this journey to explore the deeper truths of who we are spiritually, what shaped us historically, and why it all matters. Welcome to the Time Strider family. All right, and welcome back to Time Strider Radio after our short break. Thank you for joining me again today. And indeed, we are making history today with the guests I have on today. But first, a few announcements. We want to give a big shout out to Revolution Radio. Go and check out their website, all the great hosts. And if you can throw a few bucks their way, that goes a long way in showing your support dedicated to free speech. The Shadow Tech Alchemy website is a spiritual, philosophical, and psychological platform intended to be used by self-healers in their inner work and practice, and anyone who wishes to better understand the shadow side of the human condition. You can go and check out the website and meet Colin Davis and, on his website and get familiar with his work. His website is shadowtechalchemy.com. And Sound Path to Freedom is excited to announce that we will be back again in 2026 to share natural law through music, discover your unalienable rights, develop true care, and understand how to turn that into right action with your fellow truth seekers in your community. You can find everything you need to know at soundpath.org. You can also keep up with all the updates on the multiple platforms that are listed on the link trees in the description. Be sure to bookmark that. And today we have a great show we have some great guests on. And they are the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference crew that puts together this event, and this is number 5, Funnel 5 we're going into. That's going to be live in full swing February 21st and 22nd. That's this weekend, folks. So go over, you can find the website. That's freedomundernaturallaw.com, and you'll be able to find everything that you need to know about this conference that's about to take place. So if we could bring on our guests and just have them introduce themselves a little bit. We have Will Keller, Leslie Powers, Chris Jansen, and Derek Barticelli.
Thanks for having us on, Sarah. It's a pleasure. My name is Will Keller.
What's up, Will? Chris Jansen here.
And there's Leslie Powers here.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you so much for having us on. Soundpath in the house. AwakenYaMind one time. Thank you.
And yeah, thanks guys for joining me today. It's always great to hear from you.
Thanks to all the guests that joined.
Yeah, we're excited about this weekend. It's come up really fast.
Sure has.
Yeah. It's a relief to have my presentation done, and now I'm excited about the coming weekend. Yeah.
And slow, good stuff.
So if we could just, I'd like to give each of you some time to chat about what you would like to add in with, about FUNL, and if you wanted to talk about some history, where it started, and a little bit, just to give you each a little bit, a few minutes to discuss it. So whoever would like to go first.
Sure. Yeah, I'll jump in. So the creation of the first FUNL conference was actually February 12th and 13th of 2022. And the FUNL one conference was really just us performing, our funnel crew, which originated as really a support group in during the lockdown pandemic times. So it was just a group of us getting together once a week, just connecting, interacting. And as individuals started getting out into the public domain of our own individual content, meaning going public and talking about some of the issues that we do, we decided to come together as a group to create something. And being extremely inspired by primarily the Seed conference hosted by Brandon Martin, Nate Kapp, Douglas Martin, and that was fantastic to see them turn an in-person event into a virtual event, and that was something that we wanted to aspire to. And we put our minds together, came together, and did the first trial run, which was just the people in the group, and it went smooth, had a great response, and then we just kept evolving from there. And then the second and third and fourth, and now we're at the fifth, and we've brought in all different types of presenters from a huge variety and array of categories, health, spirituality, esoterica, occulted history. I mean, you name it, health, fitness, comedy, art, music, and really just bringing in these people that are out there doing the one great work in their own capacity and capabilities under that banner of freedom under natural law.
Thanks for doing that intro, Will. I don't know if Sarah can hear me or not. I hope so. But I just wanted to add, I was really inspired by the work of Mark Passio back leading up to 2020, really going thoroughly through the What on Earth is Happening podcast. It really inspired me that in the end, some of the words that really stuck with me of Passio's is wisdom is action. And the more I thought about it, I realized, I have the capacity to speak. I was kind of gifted with parents that were well, educated enough to really go take the time with me with words. My dad used to always have me looking up words in the dictionary, and my mom was into acting, and so she had me up on the stage from a very young age. So I realized, I do have the capacity to speak in front of people, and I understand what's going on. It made sense to me. The whole recognition and realization of natural law being a much more simple, common sense way to explain ethics, morality, reality itself than the previous things I'd been through, like in religion, Christian religion for sure, that are so muddled with kind of fantastical ideas that I could never meld with completely. So meeting these other folks that kind of like really understood this natural law thing from our natural law group meant a lot to me, especially at the time when I was preparing to put my voice out there, and I started making my own first series of videos and presentations, and I was like, all I could dream about was one day doing a presentation like they did at Seed conference, and getting together with Will and Leslie and some of the other folks we were hanging out back then. It just started seeming more like a possibility, and Will was always super optimistic, and he has so many skills with his past experience in production, and that he was able to say, yeah, we can do that, we can make it happen. I know how to do a lot of that stuff, all of it, and we did. We made it happen, and ever since I've been able to get more involved on the technical end, and I really appreciate Will's kind of tutelage and teaching me some things, and meanwhile expanding, getting to know people in autonomy from Richard Grove's Autonomy and learning skills there. And it's all come around to this really wonderful ability to reach out to other people, and to me, whatever we want to say just sounds more legitimate, however you look at it, when there's a lot of different people saying it from slightly different perspectives, but basically saying the same thing. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the funnel conference process. But I'll pass it on. I feel like I've been talking a lot. How about Leslie?
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, it's all good. And you're coming in, Chris, so no worries. Certainly a back end problem over here. So, yeah, I think that's great, guys. And yeah, Leslie?
Sure. Yeah. So the thoughts popping into my head as I'm listening to Will and Chris are my experience of how many hands make light work, and how each of us has something to offer. I don't have the technical skills and experience that Will has or that Chris has, and yet I have found a role in this process and offered something. And I think that that's important spirit, for everyone to recognize, is that we each have something to offer to this effort. And that when we put our efforts together, it becomes lighter. There's a synergy that's created by teamwork, and an inspiration that expands, through sharing a stage together, so to speak. We have, you know, over 8 hours of content for each day this weekend of people speaking from their own hearts and minds, having been activated through a deep study and experiential pathwork around natural law, and people who care very deeply about freedom and about humanity's future. And when you bring people together like this, coming also with an activated creative spark here, we're going to create this synergistic powerhouse of a weekend, an energetic, huge spark. Speaking of sparks, I think that, that this culminated synergy of people is going to create, and I hope that people tune in live, because there's really something special about being present, having the opportunity to hear a variety of voices, both and creative expressions with voice, the intellectual voice being spoken, the poetic voice, the musical voice, artistic imagery. We're going to bring a full spectrum experience. I've been inspired every time. It keeps us motivated to keep doing these events. Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, and I was gonna, piggyback. Of course, Leslie and I with Dissolving the Divide, it's having all these different types of people from all these different, backgrounds and areas of study or whatever. And yes, we have like-minded things going on, of course, but at the same time, everyone has so many different aspects that are unique to themselves and whatever. You can just take that up to their natal chart, if you will, and their life experiences. But it's, with Chris, what he does with the End Evil podcast, and Will Keller, what he's done with his works over the years, and him and John have had a Natural Freedom League, the real NFL, right? Not just always on Sundays. That's not the most conscious ritual, but we're bringing, and it's just how things funnel into a type of cornucopia with copious amounts of consciousness, leaving some in astonishment, aligned towards all forms of slavery abolishment. And yeah, I love how music can flow in between the seams of these conferences and the arts and stuff. It's just like a lot of other conferences that people might have been to live in person well before the dawning of the Rona, right? Which is why, and the SEED conferences, and now with the Freedom Under Natural Law, and from the get-go, yeah, it's like those were some lifelines of some serious motivation and inspiration on my end, at least. And I've an abundant amount of reasons to be inspired, regardless. But it can take things to the next level. You're like, oh shit, I want to get in contact with these guys. Like, oh, like Will Keller's in California. Well, Sarah, you're in California too. I didn't know at the time, but especially, Chris and Leslie. Oh, Redding, California. And I'm like frequenting Oregon from the Bay quite often. I'd got to stop by and say what's up, and some things lead to another, and they're quite a cool, conscious sister and brother in a sense, So, yeah, it's always been a fruitful endeavor, every single one. And I've just been so thankful and honored to be a part of any of the events, So, yeah, looking forward to this one. And it's quite fitting that 2026 in the mix, we are not holding our horses, especially with that fire horse, in regards to what just happened yesterday, in regards to the Chinese New Year, with the Chinese zodiac being the fire horse. So that's a little cool correlation there. So, yeah, Sparky.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm looking forward to another weekend for a full funnel conference. This will be the fifth one, which is like quite a track record, and you should certainly be proud of that achievement. It's definitely a great thing to add to like a portfolio and building, and, showing how you lead by example. And I'm a big fan of that. Leading by example, not just like putting stuff out there for the sake of it, but actually doing what you say you're going to do. And I think Funnel is a perfect example of that. Now, this year's title for the conference is Ignite. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Nice.
Hearts
So,
and minds, even.
yep. Yeah, so we've got that shared, folks, in the Time Strider private radio chat room. So if you haven't found it, please go and check it out. So for this year, what kind of, like, I know it's kind of all the same. It's usually the same, like under the same freedom under natural law theme, but what kind of new stuff, without giving any away the goodies, could we really expect?
We're going to bring the fire. There's going to be, every presentation is the latest iteration of thought process going through what we see as some of the most up-to-date presenters out there, people that are, we really look, when we go through the process of choosing presenters, we start with a sort of a premise. And if you do go to freedomundernaturallaw.com, you can click on replays or /replays. And there's a bit of a progression we've been working on trying to build this conversation with the public, with our possible listeners, right? And like Will said, the first one was just a support group coming out with all of our own presentations for the very first time. But then the second one we called Convergence. We were trying to bring people to the table with us to have this conversation, like, on a bigger scale, right? And then the third one was, okay, well, we've got all these people here. Let's talk about the trivium. So now that we got a bunch of people in the same place, on the same table, talking about the same thing, freedom under natural law, now what? Okay, we use the trivium to kind of break down the grammar, the logic, into rhetoric that we can put out, that makes sense. And we had some great people there to help us with that. And then Funnel 4 was Humanity Rising. It's like, okay, we got this information. We have the ability to discern it and churn it through our process of trivium thinking, right? Now, what do? Let's rise up, And here we are with 5, and 5's a big, important number. And some of our presenters actually going to go into some more detail on that, which is great. If you see my interview with Nate Kapp, he does some really great talk in that interview about the number 5. But number 5 is a number of like Derek just pointed out, the Chinese New Year of fire. We need a light, and the bit about the hearts is really important, because when I made some of my breakthrough discovery realizations in life, it was like opening my heart was really important aspect of that. And how else do we ignite someone else's heart and mind but through, like, what you said, Sarah, setting that example. And so that's the progression. The new thing is, it is the same old story. How are we going to get to freedom if we don't understand natural law, if we don't set down the fundamentals? And then, bigger than that, this is one of the biggest changing times that humanity in history has ever seen. There's new things happening that are scary in a way that more people are kind of like, what the hell is going on, than ever, which is an opportunity. It's a grand opportunity to start on the same page. Despite whatever terrible things might going on in the world, in the physical realm, we have the momentum in the spiritual realm to set down the foundation of where people can focus and concentrate. And we're trying to trailblaze that path, even though it's the same old story that's always been. It's about opening your heart to the truth that deep inside voice is telling us all, which is don't treat people the way you don't want to be treated. Right? I'll pass it on.
I definitely agree with that, Chris. I think more and more, whether they, fall into the path of like natural law teachings from, somebody who teaches that, I think more and more people are starting to see the dysfunction that is taking place. And that's turning them at least towards more of a, morally directional pathway. And they're like, wait, hold on a second. This isn't like normal. So I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that. That was well said, both you guys. Yeah, this theme, we do come up with kind of a theme and an energy of the conference, and then the presenters can kind of go from there. Whether they incorporate that or not, that's up to them. But having the fifth funnel conference, we're always, all of us are big into the esoterica and symbolism. And the 5 itself is obviously that number of adventure, freedom, and transformation. And literally, fire is the source of all transformation. Metaphysically, psychologically, emotionally, and in the natural world, right? We could see this, the main source in the natural world, obviously, is the sun. So ignition, to ignite, to inflame, is us setting the container or laying the stone circle for the campfire of this event to inspire people, whether that's through the heart or through the mind from rationale or logic. A common theme that we get throughout these conferences is we do get new people that have not heard of natural law, or, they just somehow saw an ad and came across the conference and then they really enjoyed it, and they see certain presenters, they are familiar with natural law, and then they get a whole list of presenters that they never knew existed and really kind of resonated with their work. The conference is all about promoting and supporting the presenters and the artists in the conference. So that's a real big aspect of what we do, right? We're trying to reverberate, we're trying to promote, we're trying to let people know that, look, there are people talking about the causal factors of what is going on in the world and the governing dynamics of change and freedom. Here they are. Check them out, go support them, and continue to, follow their work, etc. So it's really a group effort, and it's a microcosm. It's a mini egregore of what a communal environment will look like, where we have people coming together to create something. And it's just worked out very well, and super grateful for the funnel team and all the supporters that we have had from all of the events and the presenters and their contributions.
Yeah, for sure, Will. Yeah, great. Well said. The complete subtitle for this conference is Ignite Hearts and Minds, the event that will spark truth, love, and freedom. And what I really appreciate about this particular focus is the integration of the heart and the mind, recognizing that truth and love go together for the creation of freedom. My presentation will be very much about that merging. My presentation is called The Cosmic Mother's Guide to Freedom. We'll be talking about the process of developing internal monarchy through this balanced archetype of the great cosmic mother, of bringing the love and the synergistic energy of combining objective with subjective, masculine with feminine, figuring out how do we deal with these paradoxes that we are in and still work together and find unity, focusing on the right things. So I thought it might be fun just to name off some of our our list of presenters and their at least tentative titles to give people a little heads up. These aren't in a particular order. We are in the process of developing an order. We haven't released it officially. But we have there a first time to funnel Dan Arnold, and his presentation is called The Hammer and the Flame. Really excited to have him on as a former police officer and military guy who's really takes his teachings from that in-person experience and bringing the truth around natural law and how it applies and how it can motivate people really to exit from some of those systems of order following. We have Chris Jansen, of course, with his title, Finding Center in the Apocalypse. I would say that's an important job for all of us. Nate Kapp, bringing back his Oculus with Oculus 2. Some very deep dive into occult symbolism there. I was actually listening to his interview with Chris. I recommend everybody check out the pre-interviews. One, they're inspiring. Two, you get a feel for these presenters and this, brilliance they're bringing. I loved listening to Nate and seeing how these principles he's talking about echo throughout my presentation. And I think we're going to find that certain themes are going to be interchangeable and being inspired from all sorts of directions. We have Cynthia Mitchell talking about food and freedom and how that relates to sovereignty. We have Brandon Spencer with The Armor of Righteousness, heavy hitting as normal. Derek has got a great presentation inspired through The Lord of the Rings called Light the Beacons. Kat Waters is coming in talking about the mind-body disconnect pandemic. And Conrad Rogos, who was in our last funnel, is going to talk about natural law frontiers. Corey Enderlot is talking about Arda, again, a inspiration of The Lord of the Rings, but his subtitle is The Effort for Conscious, Creative, Integrative, and Individualized Health. We're really talking about our whole bodies and our health. Jerry Cabazuto is talking about taking responsibility for love, applying natural law to love and relationships. Will, the spirit of fire, bringing it home. Tyler Bloyer, also new to our funnel lineup. The Pyrrhic Progression, the illusion of freedom in modern chains. Brandon Martin, Amor es lex amor sub voluntate. I'll leave it to him for some Latin. An esoteric initiation of love, will, and law. Stefana Johnson, a dynamic women's powerhouse here, talking about leadership. She is going to be talking about powerhouse leadership, restoring natural law through aligned head, heart, and action. David Rodriguez, talking about how laughter accelerates truth, why comedy is crucial for the great self-ownership awakening. And soul expression, again, a newcomer to funnel, so excited to have him on board. He's talking about religion, the oldest psyop. And then James Cordiner bringing us home with voluntarism and the fundamentals of freedom. So there's a sneak preview of our titles and presenters. It's going to be exciting.
Oh, that's great. And several new names there, too, which is awesome.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny. I got to collaborate with Corey because both of him and I are quite Tolkien fans or whatever. We're going to come up with some very interesting correlations but separations of our trajectories and what we're bringing forth. Yeah, what I'm not going to be talking about in regards to light the beacons, but is totally applicable to what anyone can do at any given moment, is ask oneself, who right now currently is a beacon of light? How can this work and these conscious concepts spread like wildfire? Light the beacons could also be like, hey, just spread the news. Share this with others that need to hear it. Gondor is in need or whatever, or Midgard, not just Middle Earth, but right here, right now. And yeah, Will, looking forward to your presentation. I know you're going to bring lots of alchemical elements to the table, and what you said earlier about how fire is that transformative element. Yeah, totally. And first thing that popped into my mind was calcination in regards to the alchemical process. That's the first stage of it. And so all the falsehoods and all the illusions and delusions need to be burnt up, you know? And then there's 6 more steps to follow, and then some, and continue the process. Wash, rinse, and repeat, right? So, yeah. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to what everyone's going to be bringing to the table. We're just kind of moving around in the backgrounds and obviously, tending to our own fires of our passionate projects and our own inner works and all that stuff, networking and all these things that, a conscious mind needs to be conscientious of. So, yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, it's really going to be a great weekend. And, like even a couple of those names like Dan Arnold and Jerry Cabazuto both join us here as hosts on Revolution Radio. So certainly, go and give everybody some support this weekend with watching that. And I would like to ask you guys for, this year, what would your, goals be to achieve? And what would you like people to get the most out of for this year's conference? I think it's appropriate, the title of it being Ignite, igniting that fire there within people, and, really that's just sort of a call to action. There's how I would read that at a, psychological level there. So I'm wondering, what is it like each of you, what would your, goals really be? What would you like people to get the most out of? Like if there was one message or from each of you that you really want people to take home afterwards?
I'll go first, Sarah. That's something I thought a lot about for my presentation. And the one thing I really want whoever's listening now or to this conference is, like I said before, wisdom is action. In some form or another, express yourself. Come to the understanding of how you see this world and this reality and express yourself. Even if you are wrong, the action of expressing yourself, of writing it down, of thinking it out, of saying it out as best you can, will help you solidify and realize the things in which need to be thought out better. And we all think we know it. We think we got it, right? But so does the little infant who's trying to stand up for the first time, and usually we don't got it. And so we have to learn to go through that process of expressing ourselves. And that takes bravery. It takes inner willpower to do. And so that's really what I hope people take away from the fire that they're going to get from these other people that have done that. They say, look, if they can do it, I can. And one last thing I want to say before I pass it on, maybe we'll go next, is last time during the FUNL conference, in our chats was when Sarah and I started talking about writing a book, and I had this goal that I wanted to write a book the following year. That's done. I did that, and thanks a lot to Sarah's little bit of coaching and encouragement and just kind of being on the other end of the line anytime I needed to ask a question. Super sweet, but that little fire she sparked helped me get that book done. You know what I mean? And that came out of the fire of that last conference. We were rising, right? We were asking humanity rising. It's like, let's rise up. It's the same thing we're asking you to do, really. You got to do it. Each person. We need more hands to make the work more light. Right now, it's a heavy job.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad you were able to publish, like put out and publish that book. And I mean, because anybody who knows me, books are my favorite thing. So I really stand by the concept that we need to put books into people's hands. Um, and I think it really solidifies information into people in a much different way than, even though all of it's great, even podcasting and conferences online, this really like spreads those wings wide. But, to put a book into somebody's hand, really, it just seems so solid in that respect. So I'm so glad that you were able to put that out there. And guys, go and check out Chris's website. All those links will be in the description. You'll be able to find him when this replay is done up. So go and check out his book. It is definitely a good book to have on your reading list.
Yeah, well said. And Evil.life. And also to
Will
to
wrote the
mention,
intro too, by the way, the book that changed my life.
I did write the intro, and I was completely honored to have that privilege to do that, Chris. So thank you. And also The End of All Evil, that book is available on Chris's website as well as a physical copy. Extremely difficult to find. And one of the top books that I think everyone should have in their library for sure. I think one of the big takeaways for me, the FUNL conference is a CTA, a call to action, right? Because that's the only way we are going to generate change in the world is by acting in our own right. We need, first, obviously, coming to the realization that moral education and moral right action is how we change the dynamic of the state of the world, of human slavery, of slavery on the planet in general. So just as the logo kind of depicts what I'm speaking of as the call to action, right? It's the funnel, it's the toroidal field. The logo itself is the inverse geometry of a toroidal field, which is an hourglass shape. It's funneling your attention, your minds down into a single point, and that single point is to generate the action, which comes out the other side, right? This whole conference is not entertainment for people. It's not intellectual entertainment. It's literally, quite literally, to inspire you to look within your own self, heart, and mind, and act in your own capacity, to begin that journey of self-realization and self-actualization, to act within the world. And we do that through technology and through moral education. And for me, that's the whole conference in a nutshell, showcasing all of these other people that come from all walks of life, different demographics all around the world, different categories, different attributes and topics, understand morality, understand moral right action, is the solution itself, utilizing the tools that we have available in the modern world, right? The technology, and acting upon that. And that's, in the nutshell, that's what the FUNL conference is. And we want every single person, man, woman, is a node towards the goal that we say we want, which is freedom. Those nodes have to activate and blossom and bloom.
That's great. Well, I love how you're really talking about how each one of us is a node that has a dormant power that we haven't fully expressed, and that we each of us, just inherently to being human and living in this world, have some contradictions inside of us. And these contradictions are evident outside in how groups of people, individuals interact with each other, how groups interact with other groups, and on to this large world of confusion and chaos. And so my call to action is for people to really honestly look at themselves with a deep self-reflection, to be willing to look at how we are each working for freedom and also against freedom, against our own personal growth. What are our blocks? Where is our cognitive dissonance? Where are we disconnected in thought, feeling, and action? Because we need to do this inner work, this inner reflection first and foremost, and do some assessment around our where we are in our degree of personal sovereignty and in alignment with natural law principles. Natural law really involves not just understanding these principles intellectually, but embodying them in our relationships. And it is through our relationships that we then create the power to change and manifest outcomes in the world and inspire others to act in aligned ways. So we are missing out on some of the opportunities for unified action. And in order for us to figure out how to develop that, we need to look at ourselves. And if we each do that inner work, then we're going to activate our own power and the synergy of uniting individuals on a mission, with a clear goal towards sovereignty and a unified freedom in the world. And that inevitably has to include the moral compass that natural law principles provide us, added to a very heart-based, care-driven, subjective unification as well. So,
yeah, I think that's great. And if there was something you really would like somebody to take away from the conference, Leslie, do you have an idea of something that you would really like people to just have a takeaway from it?
Well, I think, my presentation is about a process, and I think people are looking really quick for answers and solutions. And I'm saying, hey, this is a process. So are you ready to step into the processing of your own emotions, of your own wounds? I want people to do their own trauma work. And that this involves a spirit of compassion for self and for others, and how we treat each other, how we talk to each other, how we interact. What do we do when we disagree with each other? What if we think someone's focused on something that we don't think they should focus on? We think they should be focusing on the thing we think that is more important. How are we going to navigate those things? Are we going to take responsibility for our own triggers? Are we going to keep ourselves unified on the most important message? And in order to do that, we have to be aware of our own personal triggers and biases, and manage and be a director of our own internal landscape, to be self-led. And so this is a process that we need to develop. And I am, giving people some guidelines, some at least beginning mindsets around how do we do this, and then step into something that's foreign, that's uncomfortable, out of your comfort zone, into a more into the subjective, in order to clear our vision to see the truth objectively. We're all blinded by our own subjective lens to some degree, and we are often attached to it as well. So it's a process that I'm hoping people will be willing to engage in.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Like 100% completely agree with that. Like, it really is about taking personal responsibility and not blaming others for their own baggage, right? And, for people to be able to like move forward and actually be able to, like, I kind of feel like you can't really like even begin to like maybe even share this information of like, morality and all of that unless you don't get your own baggage together. I like how you brought up thoughts, emotions, and actions, because that's how you get that baggage together. It's taking personal responsibility regardless even of who is at fault. You've got to own yourself as an adult and, work with that and not let it hold you back. Whatever the trauma or thing may be, you've got to own it like an adult. And that's your thoughts, emotions, and actions, getting it together.
Yeah, totally well said, Sarah. And, we're in a climate where there's so many things to get pissed off about, right? There's so many things to divide us and distract us from our path. And we need to be aware when we're getting pulled off path.
Yeah.
And have skills and tools to redirect.
And the division, the constant dividing only makes it worse as far as this stuff goes. And I think people need to pull back and remember, well, we don't have to be like, photocopies of each other or get along or even really be friends. But we do need to understand, like, what the main problem is. And, as long as we're on, like, the same team in that regard, then it hardly matters the details about our differences. So people need to put that stuff aside, I think, just because it's ultimately irrelevant in the end. And, not to say people can't be unique, kind of the point, but to put aside all the details that are kind of, inconsequential to it, then that's where people need to kind of be right now, I think. So yeah, it would definitely help.
Just dissolve those divides, eh?
Yeah, exactly. We don't need any more of that, and from everything from, labels to, identities to, belief systems or what, like, none of that stuff really matters. What only matters is, do you know the difference between right and wrong? And do you have your thoughts, emotions, and actions together? And outside of that, it's really like, I don't care about the details really outside of that. That's like I go by those things first and foremost. And those things are the most important things to me personally. But Derek, if you had any thoughts about like how you would like this conference to be taken away, like if there was like a takeaway that you think is important for people to like kind of have with them after the conference, do you have any thoughts on that?
Plenty, but I'll boil it down in a nutshell because I know time is a little scarce at the top of the hour.
We got about 7 minutes or so take.
Oh yeah. I'll take
good.
5, keeping it alive. But what's the desired effect, you say? Done in many ways, but yeah, in light of the good old fire horse, folks, it's time to saddle up. Tame that wild beast like Gandalf did to Shadowfax. And respects to Leslie and what she said, because it reminded me of the actual speed of life, and that people need to take the proper time to do the inner work and the process of just the integration of information and all these other things. There's no instant gratification with that shit, right? So yeah, be the master builder of your own life. Channel your energy, or rather funnel it towards a better moral way of life, and continue to refine your art of life. Like a smithy with the fire forges, right? It's about being the best version that you can be. Rise in love with yourself more than ever before, and that flumbling over words, because it will propel you to be the prominent causal factor to the effects of your life, taking it to, cause and effect, right? All the while trying to inspire others, whether it be from, being an example about how you go about things, or that role model, if you will, and or, sharing your wisdom and knowledge along the way. And I say love because that can be such a fuel to anyone's fire. Whether it be self-love, the love you get from friends, with the philos or the eros or whatever, right? Just don't get stabbed to death with the arrows of Cupid, right? Don't be stupid, I can't resist a rhyme a little bit at the time, but yeah, that's pretty much what I got. And for folks to really master the art of communication as well, I'm still trying to do the same. It might not sound like it when you hear my presentation, but it's been a long time coming, and being bilingual has given me a fancy little jingle here and there. But I'll say pardon my French if I need to swear. But yeah, that's basically the gist of the old flick of the wrist. But yeah, cheers.
That's great, Derek. No worries. Yeah, I definitely can't wait to see the end, the beginning, well, in everybody's presentation that's going on. We've got a few more minutes here, probably about maybe 4 or 5 minutes left. If everybody wants to go around and just like talk a little bit about their work and where people can find you, and, just like, specifically like how you like to affect the population in, educating people about this kind of stuff. And like, I love how you guys talk about it as not entertainment, but as education. So it's like, if you would like a free education, be sure to check out these guys' works on their private websites, as well as be there on the live. I know with YouTube, you'll have a live chat, so you'll be able to interact as well with the crowd that shows up and really like expand your community that way. But, definitely it's going to give you a free education, so get your notebook and pen out. So if everybody wants to go around and just say a little bit something about their work, their own work, their website, your websites and stuff.
Okay, I'll start. willkeller.com. That's where you can find all my personal work. And just for the FUNL conference, I highly recommend people go to freedomundernaturallaw.com and put in your email address. You'll get all the updates. We love engaging with the chat, so we have an official Telegram chat as well, and then we are going to be streaming to multiple platforms. You can find all of that, including the presenters and the musicians, which some of the musicians actually are fantastic. I mean, Presence, Grant Elman, 33 is here, which is Derek Bros, Funky Fathers, Theo Lux, Apophysis, Joe Murray, Brendan Daniel, and Conrad, to name a few. Yeah, so just go to the FUNL website, and all the links and all the info's on there, and I highly recommend people check it out, and hope to see you there this weekend.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, endevil.life is my website. You can find End Evil Podcast on most podcast players. Been running for 5 years, and there's a lot of great stuff there. End Evil Life, there's a little tab, and you can click on that and have a store, and that's where you find the books, The End of All Evil by Jeremy Lee Locke, and The Book That Changed My Life by Chris Jansen, and Introduction by Will Keller. So yeah, check out endevil.life. And
excellent.
The one thing I want to leave people with is, what are we doing here? What is this reality we're in? What's the point of it all? If we're not looking at that, if we're not remembering to ask that question, our whole perspective's out of context, and that's what I mean by finding center in the apocalypse. This is one of the craziest times in all of history of humankind that we know of. And so we got to find some balance and think about what the heck we're doing here. Thanks.
Agreed. And guys, that is our cue today. It was not a long enough hour. All of the links for everybody's websites and the Freedom Under Natural Law website will be in the replay coming up tomorrow. Thanks, guys, for joining me, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks so much,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Thanks, everybody. See you this weekend.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio. every Sunday at 5 p.m. Studio B for Strange Universe. For Strange Universe.
Through everything, we have to remember that we have more in common than not in common. And to find this common ground, tune in to Conversations with Eagleflower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual Creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagleflower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Murder mystery? Real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m.